Let's get the reaction now to the video game story from a psychotherapist named Dr. Robi Ludwig, who's with us. And is this something you've had to, Hillary did a good job of kind of laying out both sides of it and talking about the business and the concerns. Is this something you've had to deal with over the years in talking to young people? And if so, is it legitimate?
Well, I mean, I speak with a lot of parents. I'm also a parent whose children have been interested in some of these games. So, you know, and really the studies are inconclusive. The studies find it both ways, that for kids who watch violent games, in some cases right after watching the games, they're more volatile or they're more likely to engage in short-term fights. And then there are other studies that say, you know, we followed this and actually it can be cathartic and there's a decrease in crimes.
I wonder about whether, and again, this is not scientific by any stretch, but again, even looking at my own kids, whether it has to do with the use of technology. And I shouldn't even say my kids, this is myself too, staring at your phone all day, for example, the use of technology or overuse and how that affects mood, how that affects, you know, how you act later in the day, or versus how violent that technology is.
I think it has to do with also what child is playing these games and under what circumstances. So if a child who is prone to anger is playing these games, if they're socially isolated, if they're bullied, will they interpret these games in a slightly different way? And so we certainly need to look at that. And I think parents need to look at what games are they putting in their child's life and how do they influence important discussions so that they can separate kind of a moral compass between what you play in a game and what you do in real life. You know, some of these games, when the children play the video games with other kids, contemporaries, it can lead to pro-social behavior. Is this a factor? We want to look at everything. Is it the major factor? I think that would be a stretch at this point.
Right. We don't have, you haven't seen conclusive evidence in studies.
No, we have not. And a lot of these studies are done in a vacuum. So we don't know, you know, is there punitive parenting? We have to look at poverty. We have to look at the child's personality and how they interpret these games. There are so many things to consider. But what I will say is it wouldn't be such a bad thing to have pro-social games out there. Because we need a balance. So, you know, if we have those violent games, are we having games that show an alternative, a different way to act?
Situation in dealing either with a child or a parent where you maybe suggest that, to my earlier point, that you just shut off some of the technology altogether, or take a break, or reduce it, or do you actually come to them and say, you know what, that game you're playing, you've talked about it a lot in our sessions or whatever it may be, let's try something different. Let's try a game that's less violent. Which one works better?
Well, I think what really works is having a good communication relationship with your child when they're young. Start young, when they don't want to reject what you're saying. That's always a good thing. And yes, the more that you can engage in family conversations so you know how your children are interpreting different events, the better off and the stronger your child is going to be and the parent's relationship with that child.
That's probably a larger point. You see something on the news, maybe talk to them about it.
Exactly.
Dr. Ludwig, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.